G'day and welcome to this Australian Open Live and this special episode of the Spotlight series, putting a spotlight on the wildcards that have been announced over the last few days. Just filling you in on how things are going to unfold in this episode of this Australian Open Live. We'll just give you the name of the tournament. There won't be too much information packed onto the screen for you to watch out for. We'll just give you the name of the player, a few brief stats just indicating how their form was leading into the Australian summer, how they went during 2021, which might give some insights into why they've been awarded a wildcard, their reaction for the wildcard entry and how they think it'll help their chances for the Australian summer. So we'll try and keep this as short and sharp as possible for you because we've got a lot of information to get through. And if you're interested in any of the other players in any of the other tournaments, it'll be easy to find. Just look for our wildcards playlist or our NewsBites bulletin for the channel. We'll take a short 60-second break. Don't go away, we'll be right back. All right, that's the intro. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. It's great to have your company. Really appreciate you taking time out of your Christmas, New Year's break to tune in to this Australian Open Live. And today we're shining a spotlight on the Melbourne Somerset. We're publishing ATP and WTA Tour wildcards awarded for the Melbourne Somerset. Simultaneously, we're releasing these today. You can listen or watch at your convenience. We've split the WTA 250 Tour wildcards into 2 episodes. This is part 2. The reason we've done that is because there are 2 WTA 250 tournaments running concurrently in Melbourne, or running one by now, more than likely, but that's okay. One of the advantages we have in not being a live-to-air media outlet is we can actually look into the crystal ball and, in this case, the rear-view mirror, and see how some of these wildcards performed. And in some cases, as we learnt in part 1, one of the wildcards there, the young 16-year-old who's making her WTA Tour debut at the Australian Open, she already knows who she's playing in the Australian Open first round. So check out that episode published today, the 12th of January 2022. So who knows what's in store during this episode. Tennis Australia released the details of these wildcards on 30th of December, and I've got to apologise in a little bit. This will be a little bit convoluted, this episode, because looking at the details released by Tennis Australia, very light on for details about these players, these ladies. And as we said in part 1, 2 words could apply either way: disappointing in one way or surprising in another. And the reason I use those words is because Tennis Australia is making a big deal of the fact that it's celebrating 100 years of women's tennis at the Australian Open. They've been pumping it up and making a big deal of it. United by Play is their catchphrase for promoting the Australian Open 2022 tournament, and very light on for details. So not a criticism, just an observation. So that's why we're here. Let us do all the hard work for you. We'll bring you in this episode details of, there'll be very little information on screens, so you need to keep your ears open and your eyes peeled. That while we're going through these players awarded the wildcards, we'll be telling you their world ranking, their most recent form in 2021, any success they've had in finals, whether they've not had any success, and just looking a little bit into their the player behind the stats, a little bit of a look at their bio if they have one. But some of these names might be familiar, some might not be, and that is the whole point of this exercise, putting together this episode, especially for international tennis fans. That's the whole reason this Australian Open Life exists, to fill you in not just about the Australian Open tournament, but also a little bit of context about life in Melbourne, how we all gear up for the tournament as summer's rolling around, and boy don't we need it. 2 years worth of COVID, last year's Australian Open tournament delayed by 3 weeks. We're not going to mention the C word, we're not going to mention the Joker, we're going to get straight into it. So the first player awarded a wild card into the main draw of this Melbourne Somerset WTA 250 number 2 tournament, running concurrently with number 1 tournament, is Perez. Also, the other wild card was given to Sione Mendes, and the other 3 wild cards, qualifying wild cards, Arina, Rodionova, the Russian, naturalised Australian, Olivia Jan Dramulia, and Gabriela da Silva Fick. Yes, Gabriela da Silva Fick. That's a hyphenated name. That's not me tacking on something at the end, making it up just because I can't pronounce it. So the story with the qualifying wildcards, just quickly, and I'm sorry this intro is going on a bit longer than usual, but the qualifying wildcards, if you're not familiar with how these work, if you're given a qualifying wildcard into a challenger tournament, well, any tournament actually, it's your chance to make the main draw of the qualifying tournament, that you can then earn a place at the Grand Slam tournament into the main draw. So if you win through your qualifying wildcard rounds, you'll get into the main draw of this WTA 250 tournament, and you could some players sometimes you might find there's a lucky loser, gets through, maybe someone withdraws suddenly and unexpectedly, so that's how that works. Okay, so Perez, a name not very familiar to us. She's been around for a bit, out of Shell Harbour, New South Wales, there on the coast. 26, plays left-handed. Her singles ranking 198. So let's have a look at her 2021 form. How did she go? So she's played 2 tournaments recently in Portugal in 2021, October, both in October. She did really well. What is she doing with a wild card? And I'm not criticising, but some of these decisions are a little bit surprising, and I'm not talking to you, Nick Kyrgios, in that regard. So both ITF tournaments. Sorry, I'll have to straighten myself up here. The most recent tournaments in Lagos, Portugal. An ITF challenge, an ITF tournament, the Tennis Europe tournament, the hard court surface. Perez did really well. She got through to the quarterfinal. The 3rd match of that tournament had some good straight sets wins, but unfortunately stopped in her tracks by the Bulgarian Izabela Shinnikova, the number 6 seed, 250 in the world, her ranking, and Perez lost 5-7, 3-6. The tournament just before that was held around the corner in Loeil, Portugal, another hard court surface, and she made it all the way through to the final. Perez, she fought 5 hard matches. It was only really tested in the quarter final, a 3-setter, where she it was a pretty tight match. but she ran up against the #1 seed, Harmony Tan of France, and Harmony let fly with a quick bonjour at the net, and ran through Ellen 4-6, 4-6, with Harmony's ranking 119. So Ellen would be really pleased with the way her 2021 ended, given all the there's no need for me to even say what was happening last year, is there? Ellen acquitted herself really nicely last year. So again, a world ranking of 198 at the moment. So just looking into Ellen, another person who I am speculating got through on a tennis sporting scholarship. She went 3 years straight at the University of Georgia. Yep, there it is, playing college tennis for the, the Bulldogs. Sorry, I'm just giggling for overseas listeners. The Bulldogs is a very famous sporting name here in Melbourne, tasting a lot of success in recent years. Go the Doggies. Ellen majored in sports management, which is not a bad area to get into if your passion is sport. Ellen's an aggressive baseliner, self-described as that. Sees her serve as a strength. No wonder she did so well in those 2 tournaments, because her favourite surface is hard courts, and no surprises. If I was to ask you what her favourite Grand Slam tournament is, well, and her idol growing up was Justine Henin-Ardenne. Now, just looking at Justine Henin, a good role model there. Ellen's goals is to compete at the Olympics, represent Australia in the Billie Jean King Cup, break the top 100, inspire others to play tennis. That is a heck of a to-do list. So we're wishing Ellen all the best as we wind down into the last few days before the Australian Open. Next up is the next wild card into the main draw of this WTA 250 tournament. As a qualifying tournament for the Australian Open is Sione Mendes, and not many details on this right-handed player on the WTA side of things, but we'll just look down and see if how she went with the last couple of tournaments that she played, both in Italy at the end of 2021, both in November. So she got a good head of steam going up there. The most recent tournament, she made it into the quarterfinal. Another great result for another Australian. In the quarterfinal at Selva Gardena, Italy, at the end of November, she made it all the way to the quarterfinal, playing the Russian, unseeded Russian, Erika Andreeva. Unfortunately, that player winning in straight sets. She went through pretty easy. Love 6, 3-6 against Sione Mendes. No match in that quarterfinal for the world-ranked 369th player in the world. Previous to that, almost the week and a half before, Ortiese in Italy, the ITF Tennis Europe tournament. Sione made it as far as the round of 32, knocked out by a Serbian. Natalia Stefanovic, 290 in the world, her ranking, and again a straight sets loss for Sione on that occasion, 4-6, 2-6. But the great thing is for Sione, she'll be feeling pretty good about her form. She's building up a head of steam, and the wild card will be a great help to her. And unfortunately, I can't fill you in on much more about Sione. Not many bio details there. But luckily, we also have another resource on the ITF side of things. So just looking into that as the details start coming up there. Sione is a 22-year-old right-handed player of preferred surface, unusually for an Australian, is clay. Now she's probably a regular visitor down to the National Tennis Centre at Melbourne Park with the very recently installed specialist clay court surfaces. And if we look down at Sione's recent activity, just coming up now, so let's look into our crystal ball and because the WTA 250 tournament, no surprises, it has been run and won. But in our favour, this works in our favour, because I can tell you that Sione had a first round loss against a Dutch player, Leslie Patinama Kirkova, straight sets loss 3-6, 4-6, but with her wildcard entry into the qualifying draw, no, she's gained a direct entry, I beg your pardon, into the qualifying draw of the Australian Open Grand Slam. She's been drawn to play against a player from the UK, Jodie Anna Barrage, and that's a familiar name to anyone who's been listening to this Australian Open life over the journey of the last 3 to 4 weeks that we've been going hardcore at presenting these episodes. So we'll take a quick break there. We're going to insert another little break, one of our little specialist sample teasers showcasing a couple of the matches at Bendigo and Traralgon that we've put together, showing you the start of the matches. This time we might put in the women's wheelchair tournament, the Victorian Wheelchair Open, the match between the South African and the German. Katharina Kruger really had her work cut out for her against the South African, and I hope you enjoy this little sample of the coverage that we ended up with. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back, thanks for joining us again, and this is the second part of part 2 of our series on the WTA Tour 250 tournaments. The Melbourne Somerset run in Melbourne just recently completed, and we've already let loose our ATP Tour Melbourne Somerset episode reviewing the men's wildcards, so look out for that one. In fact, you probably, if you're a keen listener, you've probably already seen it, and a keen watcher of our episodes. So we just got 3 female players celebrating 100 years of women's tennis at the Australian Open. 3 final players in this episode who've been given qualifying wildcards that give them an entry into the WTA 250 tournament, that also, if they can make it all the way through into the main draw, they might end up with a direct entry into the Australian Open Grand Slam that starts in less than 7 days. So the first wildcard for the qualifying draw has been given to Arina Rodionova, who was born in Tambov, Russia. She plays right-handed, and now she plays as an Australian. She was naturalised some years ago now, I do believe, and she's 32 years of age. Arina's been having quite a successful mixed results in her last 2 matches of 2021. So let's take a look at those. She played in Spain at Le Franquès del Valles in Spain, the hard court surface, for a whopping $80,000. did really well, made it through all the rounds into the semi-final. Was stopped in her tracks by a Swiss player, Jelena in Albon, ranked 203 in the world. I forgot to mention that Arina is ranked 153 in the world at the moment. So the Swiss player got the chocolates there. In straight sets, 4-6, 3-6, but Arina would be pretty happy. She had a couple of interesting three-setters in the round of 16 and the quarterfinal. So she was ranked 160 at the time, and she was ranked the number 7 seed. So she'd be pretty happy with racking up some points there for getting to the quarterfinal. 48 points, ranking points gained, and the previous tournament. October in Moscow, no prizes for guessing which tournament was there. So she was probably dossing with some relatives there in Moscow. Lost in the qualifying round, the first qualifying round. So that opponent was Russian, who was a wild card, Oksana Selikmeteva, ranked 238 in the world. It was a tight three-setter, 3-6, 6-3, 4-6. Bit of a shame. She probably, and I'm just speculating, she might have just lost a single game in that third set and couldn't stem the flow if her opponent had got up a head of steam. As far as Anna's background goes, she's 2014 she got her Australian citizenship, and I plumb forgot that she's married to an Australian rules footballer in Melbourne. In December 2015, she married Ty Vickery, the retired Richmond Football Club ruckman / forward. She's a baseliner who prefers hard courts, with the favourite shot being the forehand. And get this, for a list of idols and peoples that she looks up to: Martina Hingis, the Swiss Miss, Justine Enenarden, the Bryan brothers, the Zimbabwe, are they American, the Bryan brothers, the famous doubles guys that broke the Woodies record before they retired, and Michael Schumacher. Her favourite book is a Russian one, 12 Chairs by Ilya Ilf. And her favourite actor is Paul Walker from the Fast and the Furious movies. So now going into the second player awarded a wild card into the qualifying draw, ranked at 154 in the world, is Olivia Jan Dramulia, and she's her form coming into this WTA 250 tournament. Wow, was she doing some travelling in 2021. In December, get this, she was competing in the Hana Bank Korea Open in Seoul, and she got to the round of 32, but she lost to an opponent ranked 9,999 in the world. I'm not sure if that's an ITF ranking or a WTA ranking, but that was a bit of a blowout there, but that player was a local Korean, a wild card, Bu Yong-jong, losing in 2 sets, 3-6, 2-6. So probably you could forgive Olivia for maybe feeling a bit out of sorts. Korea's been really put through the ringer with COVID during 2021. So that was a brave effort to get there and have a go at when her ranking was at 521 in the world. And get this, guess where she was in November 2021? Brazil. You could not pick two more disparate places as far as competitive professional tennis, combined with tricky COVID situations. Boy, this girl must be really hungry for success, and she did okay. In Brazil, she made it to the round of 16 before losing again in straight sets. A very tight first set, 6-7, and then fell apart in the second. Love 6 in the second to an opponent ranked 231 in the world from Romania, the 4th seed, Gabriella Lee. But I bet Olivia was feeling pretty chuffed having made those countries. And now, just going slightly off topic here, it might be that her favourite place to compete and build up points is South America. She was in Uruguay, Chile, and in October, Texas. So it could well be that she's got a thing for South American clay court surfaces, but we won't really know unless we check out her ITF profile. If there's any information on there, we'll just have a look. She had on the ITF Tour in 2021, she had 14 wins, a 38% win rate. 8 of those came on clay courts and 8 wins came on hard courts. So she's trying to turn herself into an all-round player by the looks out of it. And what comes to mind is that the second-ranked player in the ATP Tour, the Aussie James Duckworth, trod a similar path through the South American clay courts, and that worked out very well for him in the end, gaining all that experience. The final player, you'll be pleased to know, because sure it's been a slog listening to these 2 episodes. Not a slog for us, of course, because that's why we're here, to do all the hard work for you. But the final wild card going to Gabriela da Silva Fick. Gabriela da Silva Fick. That's a hyphenated surname, so we're not mispronouncing that at all. Gabriela also trying to establish herself, make that transition from the ITF Tour to a full-time WTA player. She's just 21, plays right-handed, and during 2021 on the ITF Tour, what a rough year for these players. I was down at Traralgon and Bendigo recently, and to think that these players, especially the wheelchair players, travelling through all these countries, slogging their guts out, carrying all their gear, probably travelling alone, most of them. What a great effort. But Gabriela da Silva Fick only had 1 win last year in 2021, only competed in 1 tournament and 2 losses. So it goes without saying she'll be pretty pleased to get a chance to compete, to try and secure a place in the main draw of a qualifying tournament, so she can try to secure a starting spot on the grid at the Australian Open starting January 17 and then concluding the men's final on January 30, 2022. The next episode we'll have for you will be the wild cards given out for the Grand Slam itself, so look out for that one. We'll try and get that out before Sunday night, the 16th of January, so that you've got plenty of time, especially if you're an Australian listener, to get familiar with the names that are going to be appearing in lights in action during the day, the evening sessions and the night session. So that about wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed that very rudimentary summary. I'm not going to pat myself on the back about the quality of this episode. It was really just about bringing together all those names of all those players and just letting you know that that's where things are at, because you know, we live in a digital age, but it's actually sometimes not that easy to find all this information. And the Christmas New Year's break, I mean, who wants to spend all their time looking at endless streams of apps and websites and you know, so let us do all the hard work for you. That's what we're here for. And it's so very much appreciated that we're finding out that from most of the viewers, whether it's by comments or likes or subscriptions, that this Australian Open Life is hitting the mark for you. You've been listening to Bloke Who Walks. This was our Wildcards episode of the Spotlight series. Have a great new year. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat to you very soon. Bye for now. Based in Melbourne, Australia, this Australian Open Life is produced by Wise Words Media and Calumny Films.